French, by the way. Will.
Was renting a house in town. 8 years living on base, I just think my missus is ready for a little taste of normal.
Well, if normal is what you're after, you two are going to love Derry.
You don't like it much down here, do you, Miss Handler?
You know, it's hard not to miss the things you leave behind.
We're getting into the swing of it, though. Starting to feel like home.
Things happen here. We don't really talk about it. No one does.
They never even found a body. But maybe you could figure out what really happened to him.
Could have been a drifter.
Do you think somebody could kidnap a kid and keep him underground? In the sewers?
What happened out there, Helen?
We have 25 disappearances, 7 confirmed deaths, mostly children.
Something bad's coming.
What is that?
Television. I want to thank all of you for stopping by, liking, commenting, sharing. I want you to know that today and every day you're awesome and amazing. I hope that today is the day we earn that subscription. If so, you hit that red subscribe bar down below. Why don't you give us a like? It'll help us grow. It will help us grow so other people can come across our channel and I can entertain you folks as much as possible. It's a weird and wild world, so why not have a little break from it? But I digress. We're going to get into the first episode of It, Welcome to Derry. We have Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. We have a character that we've seen in the backgrounds, but not introduced, and there's no character name, just an actor name, Joshua Oldjick, who happens to be portraying a Native American. I'm not sure which tribe, and I'm not sure if what his character's name is going to be in the show, because when I looked at IMDb, they didn't have one next to his name. We have Miguel Kareem Fiddler as Terry, Jack Malloy Ligat as Phil, Amanda Christine as Veronica / Ronnie, Clara Stack as Lily, Miles Eckhart as Maddie, and Jovan Adepo as Major Leroy Hanlon, who is a major in the Air Force and is stationed at the Air Force station there outside of the city limits of Derry. Now, I'm going to do my best to bring you things that may connect to other things in the Stephen King universe here, but I'm probably going to miss a few things because I know some things within his lore, his overarching story, Stephen King. However, I'm not as versed as some of you may be out there that can pinpoint, which Easter eggs are what and to where and to when and all these other things. I personally remember reading a book, early teenage years. I think it was called Through the Eyes of Dragons by Stephen King. And around that time, I had gotten into Stephen King because of the miniseries The Stand. In The Stand, there's a character by the name of Randall Flagg, who is the major villain, if you will, of that miniseries. And he's also in this book I read, and that's when I realized that all his stories connect in some sort of way, and thought that was very interesting. Like, for example, the major here, Leroy Hanlon, is the grandfather of one of the Loser Club members. All right, I forget the character's name, but if you see the major's character in this particular series, you're going to figure out who his grandson is in the Losers Club, because they're both, his grandson was the only black character out of the friends, or the black character, kid that helped them. That's the grandson of this major here. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Also, there's a driver for the general that was there, of one of the generals of the Air Force that was there. And the driver for that general was the gentleman that was in The Shining, that was trying to help Tommy and them. He told Tommy about The Shining, right? That character, he's in this show, at least in this episode, driving the general around. Also, there's a couple of turtle references throughout the series, throughout the episode, because in the Stephen King universe, there's a great turtle god that basically is the overarching god of the universe. I think there was a reference to the Dark Tower, but I'm not sure. But what winds up happening is this series is going to take place in 3 different time periods: 1962, 1935, and 1908. And with how this particular episode ends, it's going to be really interesting how they handle all of this. This is going to kind of encompass the origins of Pennywise, so to speak. Pennywise is, for lack of a better term, an entity, a being that feeds on the fear of children. And every 27 years, and then when those times are up, he goes back and takes a nap, so to speak, and wakes up and does it all again 27 years later. Instead of 28 years later, it's 27 years later. So in the beginning of this episode, Maddie disappears. And it's a pretty wild intro to a series, and will let you know what it is you're in store for. We find out through some context clues that Maddie is a very isolated character. He's a very isolated little boy. He was watching The Music Man, a movie that came out around that time, and the usher started bothering him because he snuck into the theater. All right, we also notice that Maddie sucks on a pacifier, and he's like 12 years old. And that alone will kind of let you know that his mindset is probably still holding on to the innocence of the world, and that's his only control, because we find out later on in the episode that, he kind of got done wrong a little bit, like when he ran off after the usher was trying to chase him. The owner and operator of the movie theater kind of was like, it's all right, relax, man. He's like, well, it's not going to pay the bills, giving freebies out. And he's like, well, you know who his parents are, you know who his family is. And that's kind of an indicator right there that he probably doesn't want to go home unless he has to go home to sleep, And the two boys that we come across in this series also, Terry and Phil. I like the character Phil a lot. Phil happens to be, to me, one of the better child actors out of this group. He's a very much alien conspiracist. He has all these things of if aliens come down, how to defeat them, how they will hunt us, and this and that. And Phil, I want to just make sure. Yeah, Terry, I'm sorry. So Terry and Phil happen to be creating some sort of movie or comic book or something. We've seen discussing that because now, all right, I'm jumping all over ahead. Maddie, let's get back to Maddie in the movie theater. Maddie finally escapes with the help of Ronnie, a young girl who is the daughter of the owner of the movie theater. She tells the usher she's seen him go this way, and he was able to leave the theater going the other way. As he was leaving, a car pulled over on the way to Portland and asked him if he needed a ride, and he said sure. Now, as he got in, we discover that he's kind of running away, right? And as he's running away and he's in this car, we kind of start seeing the family act a little weird. The mother's pregnant, the father's kind of quizzing his son on spelling tests, and we see the daughter kind of being weird with something, right? And wanting him to smell her fingers and stuff. And he's kind of getting a little overwhelmed because then, like, it starts getting more, like, overwhelming for him because it just starts, the music and then the spelling test and it just, then the kid starts spelling stuff like strangulation and just words that are like really starting to throw Maddie off. And Maddie wants it to be pull over. And so finally, as he reaches over the center to make to try to make the guy crash so he can maybe escape, he winds up accidentally hitting the pregnant stomach of the wife here. And now, yes, we're starting to feel like something is weird, but something now is really going to get crazy. And she starts seeming to go into labor. And it's like, what do we do here? And it's more and more. She starts bleeding heavily from, her area. Until finally she shoots out this crazy blood-soaked, winged, demon-looking creature that we're going to assume is Pennywise awakening during that point, and flies around and kills everybody. They don't actually show him killing everyone. This little blood-soaked baby here with the demon wings. But we see Maddie's pacifier going flying out the window and stuff. And now we open up 4 months later to Terry and Phil, kind of more Terry dealing with the loss of Maddie as a friend because he felt guilty that they were bribed to hang out with him on his birthday and that they didn't really go. It seems like no one wants to hang out with Maddie, at least not these two, right? And that's been weighing heavily on Maddie's mind. Phil is kind of like, well, it's not our fault he went missing, though. Like, maybe we're jerks for taking the candy his mother gave us and not showing up. At least he's maybe conceding that's kind of a jerk move. And maybe a little bit to kind of feel bad about, especially then he did disappear. But he's like, we didn't make him disappear because of that, that wasn't our fault. And in a way, I'm kind of with Phil there a little bit. I would feel bad, but if this guy's not my friend anyway, and I had to be bribed to hang out with him, I'm not saying I wouldn't feel bad about what happened, but I wouldn't feel such personal stakes at it as if it was my brother who went disappeared or my son, right? I would be more emotionally invested into that. So I'm getting both sides of that argument between Terry and Phil. And at one point, we come across the character Lily, who's going through her own trauma of her father dying in a pickle factory and getting crushed. And the only reason why she's feeling the amount of guilt over it that she does is that we see that her and Maddie had this interaction before he disappeared. And she explains that they went to go pick up the father because something was not feeling well or some reason why they had to go pick him up. And when they went in, the daughter forgot her doll or toy in there, back at the pickle factory. And when he went back in there, one of his co-workers got caught in a machine, and then he tried to help and got caught in a machine himself and crushed to death. So she's carrying that guilt of feeling like she's the one that is at fault for her father dying. And she may forever carry that with her, because even though it was a dumb accident, he would not have went back in there if it wasn't for her toy being back in there and making a big deal about it. So in a way, she's always going to probably feel guilty, but there's going to be a way that she can live with that if she can one day, if she survives this whole ordeal with Pennywise. Right? And so she told Maddie this at their secret, because Maddie was brought to Phil and Terry's secret little area there. And so she told him that okay, I'm so excited about the show. I keep just wanting to talk out of order here. So she's carrying that guilt with her. We also find out she hasn't been at her father's grave for a year. And when she was about to take a bath, she hears Maddie's voice through the drains asking for help. And she gets bugged out, goes to this secret little hideout of Terry and Phil's. She finds out that Maddie and them weren't really friends like that, but also discovers that they're just as guilty for rejecting him as she is, because when they were talking, it was New Year's Eve or around New Year's Eve, he went into... It seemed like there was a perfect time after her telling him about her father, and then there was fireworks going off, and such a beautiful scene. He had the cojones to try to reach in for a kiss. And she kind of got confused and rejected him. And she's like, well, I thought we were friends and stuff. And he's like, we are, but, I'm sorry, man. I'll go on my way and stuff. And then she's realizing, like, oh, no, wait. Like, no, you're good. I just wasn't expecting it, but I'm not against it, almost, to say the thing. And he feels so embarrassed about the whole thing. He's like, never mind, and goes. And that was the night he disappeared. So if she would have just not rejected him, he could have been around. So now it's another thing of guilt for her to carry around with her. And hearing his voice in the pipes, you would think it's her guilt manifesting. But we, the audience, know all too well that may not be the case, right? And so she tells Terry and Phil. Terry at one point asks his father, who happens, he's from a Jewish family. They make it very clear because, they're eating traditional Jewish cuisine, and they're wearing the hat. I'm sorry. The headwear they wear, the men. I'm forgetting the name of that hat offhand. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just an asshole naturally, but I'm not being an asshole about this. You just can tell they're a Jewish family. And he asked, is it possible that a kid can be kidnapped and be held underneath the sewers? And the father and everyone in the family must be kind of tired of this a little bit because of the time spent and stuff of Maddie being gone, and the father's like, you know, you gotta stop with your fantasies and everything. And he's seen that he had a comic book and threw it, and he was like, just made Terry feel very stupid and got into like the real life horrors of the Holocaust, what Jewish people had to go through. And he said that sometimes that they were they were flayed and made into lampshades. Now, flayed, you're unaware of, means that the skin is taken off of the person completely. So picture a lampshade made of skin. Well, Terry has a nightmare that night of a skinned lampshade, and it's Maddie's face. Okay, so now he's starting to believe there may be something more to this than meets the eye. Because the next day, Phil's like, I know this kid, I know when he's lying, and he's not lying about this. And they're talking to Lily. And then they go to where the person owns the movie theater where they live. And they come across Veronica. And she's getting mad because she's thinking like maybe they're after her dad. Because the police were really after the dad, thinking he did something. And so they realized that wasn't the case, or just couldn't find anything. And this was, again, at a time where if a black man was even considered a criminal, some type of crime involving a white child, they would have did something. Okay, so they must have felt like he didn't do anything with the child. And she's like, just get out of here. And as they're leaving, Phil happens to say something about hearing Maddie's voice in the sewage system. And she kind of is like, what did you say? Whatever. And is convinced because she's experiencing some of the same phenomenon. She's like, I don't know if it was his voice, but I'm hearing voices in the basement in abandoned parts of the theater that no one should be there for no good reason. And so she decides to play the movie that Maddie was watching the day he disappeared. And she's up there running the projection machine, right? And the others, Phil, Terry, Lily, and Phil's sister, because there's no babysitter this day, are sitting there watching the movie. And they see Maddie in the movie. And they're yelling for Maddie, come on, thinking that maybe he can come out of the screen, right, and be saved. And as he reaches pretty much the very edge of where the screen would be, they're like, come on. And he's like, and he says something to the degree of, I'm not coming out. And the baby winged demon creature that was birthed in the beginning of the episode comes flying out of the screen and starts going buck wild. And this scene is pretty crazy to where I don't know where this show is going to go after this, because Phil, Terry, and Phil's sister appear to be completely done. Like, they seem like this baby winged creature, baby demon creature, appears to have killed them. And the only survivors still right now at this moment is Lily and Ronnie. That Lily is in such shock that when she was able to leave the theater, because she was trying to grab Phil's sister, she still has Phil's sister's arm in her hand. And so it's only Ronnie and Lily there. And that's where the episode ends. So if that's two characters we were introduced to, and it got emotionally invested, they're already gone, right? What's going to happen with Lily? What's going to happen with Ronnie? And how is it going to lead into these two other time periods of learning about Pennywise and his past and his connection with Derry? Man, I will tell you, this episode really set the tone, and I'm glad it is the tone I was expecting. I want this show to be unexpected. I want this show to really show things. You have a lot of you have a lot of episodes to flesh this thing out and give us some really wild, crazy Pennywise lore, some crazy scenes like this, some crazy death scenes like we got in the theater. I don't know what's in store for other two surviving members of this Losers Club, so to speak. But I will just say that this episode was pretty cool. The major that we got introduced to in this episode is dealing with some racism, and he got beat up by 3 people because they wanted to know the blueprints of the new C-130 or C-230, something like that, airplane that he's going to be test piloting, because he's going to be a test pilot here, and it's some new fancy pants airplane that is new and no one knows, and he was getting beat up to find out what the specs were for the ship, so to speak, until he was saved by his friend. And that was kind of where that story was at the moment. Let me know what you think down below of this episode. I'm going to give this episode definitely an 8.5 out of 10. And definitely like B plus, A minus type of area. My only complaints really is that I wish there was more time in this episode because I didn't want it to end. But I'm glad that they decided to end it on the way they did because it was a true cliffhanger. That's all I got for now. Again, let me know what your thoughts are on Welcome to Derry. And until next time, stay away from the movie theater.